For those of you who are taking Thesis Seminar, I wanted to provide a very brief video, a recap of what we're working on in week 2. I'm going to leave the show notes here from week 1 because a lot of what we're doing in week 2 is just building on what we started in week 1. All of you fall into 2 general categories. Some of you are creating a literature review from scratch, and some of you are using a lot of what you accomplished in academic writing, taking a look at it and seeing, as we talk about potential participants, what changes, if any, are going to be necessary. The main thing I would like for you to focus on is not doing too much, making sure that whatever you include in your literature review is in fact what you're going to be ultimately collecting and researching yourself when we begin on March 3rd to begin collecting data. So a lot of the show notes here, or the notes that are from week 1, I'll go ahead and leave here. It might benefit if you are looking at how to narrow down your topic, organizing your arguments. One of the things I wanted to talk about, though, for week 2 is talking again about your thesis statement and thesis statement skeleton outline. If you were thinking about or questioning whether or not the thesis statement should look like the thesis statement that you would write, let's say, for a 5-paragraph essay, they're really the same idea. The only difference is the way that you go about building your skeleton outline. So let me explain what I mean. So the thesis statement that you are including for your 2,500-word literature review, it's still going to be based on a transition. It'll be based on a topic, a main claim, some kind of connector, and then a list of, let's say, 2 to 4 key points. Now, the difference is going to be here. Let me pull up the other document for the thesis statement and skeleton outline. So scroll down here. We have our transition, we have our topic, we have an opinion or main claim. We have some kind of connector, usually by or because, depending on what kind of question we're answering, whether we're answering the question why or how. And then typically a list of key points. 2 to 4 key points is a reasonable number, because really the difference is going to be now the key points that you list at the end of your thesis statement are going to be the headings. So this is the main difference. The key points are going to be presented in the form of a section heading, as opposed to those key points being represented as a body paragraph if you're thinking in terms of a 5-paragraph essay where each key point is a complete body paragraph. That's the key difference. I would still approach the thesis statement in the same way in terms of breaking down, again, your thesis statement into those 5 sections: transition, topic, main claim, some kind of connector, and the key points. And so when you're developing your skeleton outline, the key difference here is going to be first developing your headings, maybe in some cases subheadings. If you're only going to include 2 main headings, you might consider subheadings to divide up those longer pieces of text. If you have 3 to 4 key headings, then I don't think subheadings are going to be necessary. So the difference here then is going to be now developing more body paragraphs within those section headings that you are going to create, that's going to relate back to your thesis statement. And so for the assignment, I would try to include as many topic sentences as you can. If you're thinking about a top-down approach, you would have your thesis statement, develop your headings, and claims your topic sentences for each body paragraph throughout. So you would have kind of an outline where then you could go in and start building or developing body paragraphs based on the topic sentences. The key point here is to try to align topic sentences in a way that's that's organized and it follows some kind of logical organization. Maybe it's the least important to the most important. Maybe it represents some kind of process. There are many different ways, theoretical to the practical. There are many ways that you can go about organizing those body paragraphs, those topic sentences. Once you get into each individual paragraph, you'll again consider different ways of organizing your ideas, developing evidence sentences as they relate back to the topic sentence. So that's the key difference here that I wanted to share with you if you were questioning how the thesis statement relates to literature review versus how it is developed or how it relates to a 5-paragraph essay. And again, it's pretty much the same idea. The only difference is how you're going to go about developing your skeleton outline. So this is going to be our focus for week 2. Again, building on what we developed in week 1, we need to be, if you're developing your literature review from scratch, at this point, week 2, we need to be developing our body paragraphs, and you should have a clear thesis statement with section headings and as many topic sentences as you can so that we can, again, evaluate the way that you're organizing your paper. And then as you're developing your body paragraphs during our tutoring sessions, we can go in and look specifically at those body paragraphs. For those of you who already have a thesis and you already have your literature review and you're looking to see what needs to be included, what needs to be excluded, what changes might be necessary, when you've decided that everything that is in the literature review is pertinent to your paper, to your research, then the next step is to go into each of your body paragraphs to take a look at the evidence sentences to see that you have good examples, that you're being specific enough so that you can use those evidence sentences, you can use those claims that you're developing in your body paragraphs as a point of comparison whenever you present your findings. When you finish collecting your data, you analyze it, and you're presenting your findings in the results and discussion section, you're going to then compare and contrast your findings to the theory. And it's going to be a lot easier if, while you are developing your literature review, you're making sure that you have good evidence sentences so that you can use that information, that evidence, that data to compare and contrast later when you're developing, again, your results and discussion section. So this is what we're going to be focusing on week 2. Make sure that you are keeping up with the assignments in Microsoft Teams. Make sure that you have submitted at least one study that you feel that you can replicate. If you have 2 or 3 studies, upload any studies that you think that you're able to replicate. Again, these studies may or may not be in your theory. They certainly could be, and maybe they're likely to be included, but not necessarily, because again, the idea here is to find studies that you can replicate. They're probably going to be some kind of qualitative study. They're going to probably have some kind of instruments or procedure that's relevant, that you could use or adapt for your own research. The participants may or may not be similar, but again, the idea is to try to get enough ideas from the methods section primarily, and even the way they analyze the information so that it serves as a model for doing your own study. These are the things we'll be focusing on week 2 during our tutoring session. Actually, week 3, I should say. This is a recap for week 2, but our tutoring sessions for week 3 will be focusing on these things as you are developing your paper and finishing your literature review. Our deadline for completing our literature review, as you know, is going to be February 28th. So for those of you who are developing a literature review, again, from zero, from scratch, as much as you can have put together, maybe let's say a week before then, will allow us for me to give you some feedback and make some changes as you finish your draft, again, for February 28th. March 3rd is when we're going to officially begin developing our instruments and start collecting our data. Remember that we're going to have a whole group session, a required whole group session on February 28th, where we will talk to the whole group giving you some information and some suggestions about how to go about collecting your data. I'll stop there. If you do have any questions, of course, continue to reach out to me. Make sure you're leaving comments in your Word document if you want me to look at anything in your shared Word document in Teams. And we'll see everybody in your next tutoring session.